The storm outside roared like a wild beast. Dust and lightning filled the alien desert as Ethan Cole, a lone human explorer, pushed through the ruins of an ancient temple. His scanner blinked with weak energy readings, something alive, something ancient, buried under stone and metal. He brushed away layers of sand and saw a faint blue glow shining through the cracks of the temple floor. Carefully, he used his plasma cutter to open the chamber below. The air that escaped was cold, unnaturally cold. It felt like the breath of something waiting for centuries. As he stepped inside, his flashlight caught the shape of a figure standing upright in the center of the chamber. It wasn't a statue. It was a person, covered completely in silver armor that looked fused to her body. The armor was smooth, seamless, and alive with faint pulses of light running along its veins. Ethan whispered, "What the hell happened to you?" The figure didn't move. She looked young, slim and fragile under all that armor, like a sleeping soldier locked in time. Around her, ancient machines hummed weakly, projecting holographic symbols he couldn't read. He touched one panel and it displayed old human script. Project Seraph, status, sealed, human. Ethan's heart pounded. This place wasn't supposed to exist. The record said no human colonies were ever built here, and yet, this looked like a lab, made by people long gone. He slowly walked around the armored figure. The armor had no openings, no helmet seams, no wires, just smooth metal that looked almost organic, like it had grown around her. He reached out, his fingers trembling slightly. "I don't know if you can hear me," he said softly, "but if you're trapped, I'll try to help." As soon as his fingers brushed the armor, the entire chamber shook. The walls lit up with symbols, energy lines crawled across the floor, and the air turned electric. Ethan jumped back, but it was too late. The armor reacted to his touch. A sudden flash of light blinded him. Sparks flew from the machines. The ground trembled as the seal on the armor cracked like glass. For a moment, time froze. Then came a soft, almost human sound, a gasp. Ethan opened his eyes. The silver plates began to split apart one by one, like petals opening on a mechanical flower. Beneath the falling pieces of armor, he saw pale skin glowing faintly blue, strands of silver-white hair flowing free. The armor shattered completely with a metallic sigh. The girl inside collapsed into Ethan's arms, light flickering across her body before fading away. She was real, warm, breathing. Her eyes opened slightly, glowing with faint luminescent light. She looked at him, her voice weak but clear. Finally, someone touched the seal. Ethan's mouth went dry. "Who are you?" But she didn't answer. She closed her eyes again, whispering something in a language he couldn't understand. The temperature in the room began to rise. The blue lights on the walls dimmed one by one until only silence remained. The storm outside calmed as if the planet itself was holding its breath. He carried her carefully back to his shuttle, laying her on the medical cot. The scanner beeped wildly. Her DNA wasn't like anything recorded in galactic databases. Half human, half unknown. Her heartbeat was slow but steady. Ethan sat beside her, staring. "You were sealed for centuries, weren't you?" he murmured. "Why?" He looked at the pieces of armor now lying in the corner of the ship. They weren't ordinary metal. When he tried to touch them again, they turned into dust and vanished, leaving behind faint golden particles that floated like fireflies before disappearing completely. The girl moved slightly, mumbling in her sleep. Ethan leaned closer. "Who sealed you?" he asked quietly. Her lips trembled. "Humans did." That word froze him. He looked out through the ship's window at the alien desert glowing under twin moons. If what she said was true, then this wasn't just a lost alien. This was something far more connected to his own kind, something humanity had buried and forgotten. He watched her sleep for hours, unable to shake the feeling that the universe had just handed him a mystery far bigger than anything he'd ever imagined. He had found relics, artifacts, ruins, but never a living being sealed away in armor made by human hands. As dawn broke, the storm clouds cleared. Light poured through the glass of his ship and touched her face. For the first time, Ethan saw how human she truly looked, fragile yet strong, peaceful yet haunted. There were faint silver lines on her skin, tracing strange geometric patterns that pulsed when the sunlight hit them. He whispered, "Who are you, frozen warrior?" Suddenly her eyes snapped open, glowing brighter than before. She sat up with unnatural speed and looked straight at him, breathing fast as if awakening from a nightmare. Ethan froze. Her gaze was not of fear but recognition. She whispered in perfect English now, You freed me." Before Ethan could reply, the lights of the ship flickered violently. Energy readings spiked again. The instrument screamed warnings. He turned toward the console, confused, but when he looked back at her, she was already standing. The glow in her eyes intensified, and the faint shape of her armor shimmered back for an instant, like a ghost. Then it faded completely. She placed a trembling hand over her heart and whispered, "It's gone. After all these years, the seal is gone." Ethan didn't move. He realized he might have just awakened something powerful, something not meant to be freed. And as silence filled the cabin, one thought echoed in his mind. What if humanity locked her away for a reason? The sound of beeping filled the small cabin of Ethan's ship. He had stayed awake the entire night, keeping an eye on the strange girl lying on the medical bed. Her breathing was calm now, her glowing skin dimmed to a soft blue hue. The storm outside had passed and pale morning light filtered through the cockpit windows, touching her face with warmth. Ethan leaned against the wall, exhaustion heavy in his eyes. His mind couldn't stop spinning. Who was she? Why did her armor react only to him? And why did she say humans sealed her? The ship's AI voice interrupted his thoughts. Warning, unknown energy signature detected. Source subject on medical cot. Ethan looked over. Her heartbeat was rising. He stepped closer just as her eyes fluttered open again. They were bright, silver and blue, glowing faintly like twin stars. She looked confused, frightened, and childlike all at once. Her voice trembled. "Where am I?" Ethan spoke gently. "You're on my ship. You were trapped in a chamber. I found you there." Her eyes darted around, studying the metal walls, the control screens, and the soft hum of the ship's engines. "This place—" "It's not home," she whispered. "The world I remember was full of towers and light." "Not sand and silence," Ethan frowned. "That world, how long ago was it?" She didn't answer. Instead, she slowly sat up, touching the glass beside her. She stared at her reflection, her fingers tracing the faint silver markings on her skin. "I looked the same," she murmured. "They said I'd sleep until humanity was safe again." Ethan's heart skipped. "Humanity? You mean humans like me?" She nodded slowly. "You are one of them. I can feel it. Your energy is the same as theirs." Her voice softened. "It was your touch that broke the seal. No one else could." He took a careful step closer. "What's your name?" She hesitated, as if trying to remember something buried deep inside her. "Leora," she said finally. "That was the name the scientists gave me before they sealed the armor." Ethan repeated it softly. "Leora." She turned her gaze toward him. "You are not afraid?" Ethan gave a small, tired smile. "I've seen a lot in the galaxy, but never someone like you." She looked down at her hands. "That's because there is no one else like me." There was a moment of silence. The hum of the engines filled the air, steady and calm. Then suddenly Leora flinched and grabbed her head in pain. Bright blue light pulsed from her markings, spreading across her arms like lightning veins. The ship's systems flickered again. Ethan rushed to her side. Hey, stay with me." Her voice cracked. "It's memories. They're coming back." Images flashed in her mind, wars, fire, the sound of humans screaming. A man's voice echoed. "Seal her before it's too late. Her power is unstable." Leora gasped and fell forward, trembling. Ethan caught her. "It's okay. You're safe here." She looked up at him with fear in her eyes. "Oh, I'm dangerous. They sealed me because I couldn't control it." Ethan shook his head. "You saved yourself. That means you can learn to control it again." Her breathing slowed. She studied him for a long moment, as if searching his face for truth. "You speak as if you've known me before," she said softly. "I don't," Ethan said. "But I know what it's like to be alone, to have no one trust you." Her expression softened. "You understand loneliness." "I've lived out here for years," he replied, "searching for things people forgot. I never thought I'd find someone instead." For the first time she smiled, weakly, but it was there. "Then maybe I was waiting for you." Before he could answer, the ship's alarm rang out sharply. "Incoming vessel detected," the AI warned. "Multiple heat signatures. Approaching fast." Ethan's expression turned grim. Damn, they must have picked up the energy burst when the armor broke. Leora's eyes widened. "They're coming for me." Ethan grabbed his rifle and powered up the defense shields. "Then they'll have to get through me first." She stared at him, confused. "Why would you protect me? You don't even know what I am." He met her gaze firmly. Because you didn't ask to be hunted. And because you trusted me enough to wake up. For a moment, silence filled the room again. Then Leora nodded slowly. Then we fight together. Her silver markings brightened, glowing stronger as she stood beside him. The sensors beeped louder, enemy ships closing in. Ethan tightened his grip on the controls. Hold on. As the engines roared and the stars outside blurred into motion, Leora's voice whispered through the cabin, barely audible but filled with emotion. They sealed me in darkness, she said. But you brought me back to the light. The ship drifted silently through space far from the desert planet where Ethan had found her. The stars stretched endlessly around them, cold and distant. Ethan sat in the cockpit watching the scanners. Behind him in the soft blue light of the med bay, Leora sat motionless, eyes closed, breathing slow. He had seen her fall into strange trances like this before. Every time it happened, strange symbols glowed on her skin, and the ship's energy levels spiked. It was as if her very presence spoke to the machines. Ethan frowned at the readings. Whatever's inside her, he murmured. It's not just power, it's memory. He stood and walked quietly to her. Her head tilted slightly as he approached, though her eyes stayed shut. Her voice came softly, almost like a whisper in his mind. You're trying to understand me again. Ethan blinked. You can hear my thoughts. She smiled faintly. Only when your mind shouts too loud. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. Guess I've been shouting a lot lately. She opened her eyes then. They glowed with silver light, reflecting the stars beyond the window. I remember fragments now, she said quietly. Pieces of the war. And of him. Him? Ethan asked. She nodded slowly. The human scientist who created me. His name was Dr. Arden Vale. He was kind, but afraid. He told me I was humanity's last hope, its guardian. Then he said he had to seal me away. Ethan leaned closer. Why, what were you protecting humanity from? Her hands trembled slightly. From myself, he didn't speak for a moment. The ship's hum filled the silence. Finally, he said softly, You don't seem like a weapon. Her eyes drifted to the stars. Power changes with the heart of the one who holds it. When fear ruled mine, it destroyed everything. Ethan knelt beside her. Then maybe it's time to face that fear. Before she could answer, the console beeped again. Faint signals, encrypted transmissions nearby. Ethan tapped the screen. We're being scanned. Leora's glow dimmed. They found us. Same ones from the planet? She nodded. The hunters. They served the enemy once long ago. They want what's locked inside me. Ethan frowned. What's locked inside you? The memory core, she said. It's part of my heart. It stores the blueprints of the old human technology. The weapons, the cities, the things they built before the Great Silence. He looked shocked. You mean, lost human civilization tech? She nodded. The kind of power that could rebuild worlds or destroy them again. He stared at her, realizing how dangerous this was. If those mercenaries captured her, they could rewrite history or end it. She looked at him, eyes soft. When you touched me, the seal broke. That means you have access to the core. You're linked to me now. Ethan froze. Linked? How? She reached out and gently pressed her hand over his chest. A faint pulse of blue light moved from her palm into him. His body jolted slightly as visions flashed in his mind. Burning skies, armored soldiers, and a young girl crying in a collapsing lab. He gasped and stumbled back. Leora caught his arm. You saw it, didn't you? Yeah, he breathed. A war. Earth soldiers fighting machines. Cities falling apart. It looked ancient, she nodded sadly. That was the day they sealed me. I begged them to let me help. But the humans were afraid. They believed I had lost control, that my heart caused the destruction. He shook his head. No, I saw your face. You were trying to save them. Tears welled in her eyes, catching the ship's light. I failed. That's why they locked my memories away. The seal wasn't just to contain power, it was to bury guilt. Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Maybe it's time to forgive yourself. Her lips trembled. How can I? My existence cost lives. Because you're alive now, he said softly. And maybe that means you still have a purpose. She stared at him for a long moment. You believe that? I do. Before she could reply, the ship's alarm suddenly blared. Multiple hostiles approaching, 3 ships, Ethan cursed. They're fast, Leora closed her eyes. They won't stop. They can feel the core's energy. Ethan rushed to the control panel. Then we need to hide that energy. Can you suppress it? She hesitated. Maybe, but it will hurt. He looked at her. Then I'll help, she nodded. Slowly, she sat cross-legged on the floor, her hands glowing faint blue. Energy waves rippled from her body, shaking the walls. Ethan knelt beside her, placing his hand over hers again. The glow dimmed. She gasped in pain but kept going. The scanner showed the energy spike falling rapidly. Outside, the enemy ships flew past, unable to detect them. After a long, tense silence, Leora collapsed into his arms. Her light faded until only her soft breathing remained. Ethan looked down at her, heart pounding. You did it, her voice came faintly. You helped me control it. No one ever could before, he smiled gently. Guess there's a first time for everything. But as he looked out the window at the dark stars, a chill ran down his spine. If her memories were waking up now, then so were the things that wanted her gone. And somewhere deep inside her, the sealed memories still whispered, waiting to be unlocked. Silence filled the ship. The stars outside looked calm, but Ethan knew peace never lasted long. Leora lay resting in the medbay, her light dim after suppressing her energy. She looked fragile now, her silver hair spread across the pillow like a stream of moonlight. Ethan checked the scanners again. The system was quiet, too quiet. He sighed and leaned back in his chair. Maybe we lost them, he muttered. But just as the words left his mouth, the radar flared red. Multiple contacts, fast. Damn it, he whispered. The AI spoke flatly. Unidentified vessels approaching at high velocity. Weapon systems armed. Ethan slammed his hand on the console. They found us again. He ran to the med bay and gently shook Leora's shoulder. Wake up, we've got company. Her eyes opened, faintly glowing. The hunters? He nodded. 3 ships. Big ones. She sat up slowly, her body trembling as the silver marks on her skin began to brighten. They never stop, she said softly. They were built for one purpose, capture or destroy the sealed one. Ethan frowned. You mean you? She nodded once. They know what I carry inside. The lights flickered as the first enemy transmission came through the comms, deep, metallic, and cold. Human vessel, you are harboring restricted bioweapon unit Seraph 9. Surrender it immediately or be destroyed. Ethan muttered. That's some greeting. He opened the mic. Listen up, whoever you are. She's not a weapon. She's alive, the voice replied with a hiss. You will die protecting her, human. The sealed one belongs to the Syndicate. The comm cut. Moments later, explosions flared in the distance as the hunters began charging their cannons. Ethan turned to Leora. Can you fight? She hesitated. If I unleash my power, I can't control how far it spreads. You could die. He gave her a determined look. Then we'll find another way. She stared at him, confused. Why do you care so much? You could leave me and save yourself. Because you didn't choose this, he said firmly. And because no one deserves to be treated like a thing. For a second, her eyes softened. Then she stood, her silver light returning, brighter now. Then let me try to protect you too. Ethan jumped into the pilot seat and pushed the thrusters to full. The ship roared forward, weaving between asteroids as laser fire filled the void. Blue light streaked past the windows, shaking the hull violently. Leora gripped the console, focusing. The symbols on her skin began to glow in rhythm with the ship's power core. I can strengthen the shields, she said. But I'll need to connect with the system, Ethan nodded. Do it. She pressed her palm against the control panel. Light flowed from her body into the ship, wrapping it in a soft blue aura. Energy readings shot up. The next blast from the hunters hit, but the shield held. Ethan laughed breathlessly. It's working. But then Leora gasped. They're adapting. They're analyzing my energy pattern. The main hunter ship loomed closer, its cannons glowing red. Ethan's jaw tightened. They're charging the main weapon. He dove the ship hard to the side, narrowly avoiding a massive plasma beam that sliced through a nearby asteroid. Debris exploded in all directions. The blast wave slammed them against the walls. Ethan coughed. We can't keep dodging like this. Leora's eyes burned brighter. Then we end it. Before he could protest, she stepped into the center of the cabin. The air around her began to vibrate. The ship's lights dimmed, every system reacting to her energy. Her silver marks turned white hot. Leora, what are you doing? Ethan shouted. I'm tired of running, she said softly. They will never stop unless I remind them what I was made for. She raised her hands. A pulse of light surged through the ship and expanded outward like a wave. The approaching hunters froze, literally. Their ships were caught mid-flight as if trapped in invisible glass. Inside his cockpit, Ethan watched in awe. "You stopped them?" Leora's voice trembled. "Not for long." Her power flared again, and the trapped ships began to twist and tear apart silently. Metal folded like paper. Flames erupted, and then, just as suddenly, the light vanished. Silence returned. Ethan stared at the wreckage scattered across the stars. "You saved us," he said softly. Leora fell to her knees, shaking. "No, I destroyed them. I never wanted to kill again." He ran to her side, catching her before she collapsed. "You didn't have a choice. They were coming to kill you." Tears ran down her cheeks, glowing faintly. "This is why they sealed me. I lose control. I become something else." Ethan held her tighter. "You're not a weapon, Leora. You're someone trying to survive." She looked up at him, voice trembling. "You still don't understand. Every time I use this power, the core inside me wakes more, and if it fully awakens—" She stopped, her eyes wide. "The whole system could burn." Ethan's breath caught. "Then we'll make sure it doesn't." She gave a weak smile. "You talk as if it's that simple." He smiled back faintly. "Maybe it is when you've got someone to fight for." Her eyes softened again. "Then, I'll fight for you too." The ship drifted quietly now, surrounded by burning debris. But far away in the darkness of space, red signals blinked again. More ships, more hunters gathering. The war that began centuries ago was not finished. And this time, humanity's forgotten guardian was awake. The wreckage of the destroyed hunter ships drifted like silent ghosts across the void. Ethan's vessel glided through the debris, its engines low and quiet. He didn't speak for a long time. Leora sat near the viewport, her eyes distant, staring at the shattered remains floating outside. "You should rest," Ethan said softly. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the faces of those I couldn't save. I hear the screams again. It never stops." Ethan looked at her carefully. "You remember the war?" She shook her head. "Only fragments. But something inside me keeps calling, a place, a voice. I think it's where I was created." He leaned forward. "Can you find it?" "Yes," she said. "The signal comes from an old human research station in orbit around the system's dead moon." Ethan straightened. "Then that's where we're going." The AI chimed in. "Caution, station power levels minimal. Structural damage detected." Ethan smiled faintly. "We've seen worse." They approached the massive structure hours later, a broken ring station, half of it torn apart by time and meteor impacts. Faded letters on the hull still read, "Humanity Research Division, Project Seraph." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Seraph, that was your project name, wasn't it?" Leora nodded slowly. "Yes, Seraph 9, the 9th attempt. The only one that survived." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. "The only one?" She didn't answer. Her glowing eyes fixed on the cracked docking port ahead. "They built me here." Inside, the corridors were dark and cold. Dust floated in the stale air. Old machinery hummed weakly, powered by emergency batteries that had somehow survived for centuries. The station smelled of rust, decay, and forgotten secrets. Ethan's flashlight swept across faded murals on the walls, images of human scientists, soldiers, and what looked like angelic armored figures with glowing eyes. The words underneath read, "Guardians of Humanity's Dawn." They entered a large central chamber. In the center stood a sealed pod, glass fractured, cables hanging loose. Ethan brushed the dust off a nearby console and tried to activate it. To his surprise, the screen flickered on. "Welcome to Project Seraph Archives. User access unrecognized. Do you wish to proceed?" Ethan glanced at Leora. "Maybe it'll recognize you." She stepped forward, placing her hand on the terminal. The moment her skin touched it, the entire room came alive. Light surged through the walls. Holograms flickered. Scientists talking. Blueprints spinning in the air. Recordings from a time long gone. Then came a voice. Calm, tired, human. "This is Dr. Arden Vale, final entry of Project Seraph." Leora froze. "That's him?" Ethan stood beside her, listening as the message continued. "We created her not as a weapon, but as a guardian. A bridge between human and alien life. Her heart was designed to store the memory core, every culture, every code, every act of kindness we found across the stars. She was meant to protect the galaxy, not rule it. Leora's eyes softened. He believed in peace. But the next part of the message grew darker. The Council feared her power. They said no machine or hybrid should hold the hearts of 1,000 civilizations. When war came, they turned her design into a weapon. They made her destroy to save humanity. When the war ended, they couldn't look at her the same way. They called her dangerous and sealed her away. The hologram flickered, showing Dr. Vale standing beside a large containment pod, the same one Leora had been trapped in. "Leora," he said in the recording, "if you ever wake up, I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you from them. But I hope one day a human with a kind heart will find you and see what you really are." The message ended. Silence filled the chamber. Ethan turned to Leora. Her expression was unreadable. Tears of light shimmered in her eyes. He wanted me to live free," she whispered. "But humanity feared me instead." Ethan spoke gently. "He believed someone like me would find you." She looked at him, voice trembling. "And you did?" He nodded slowly. "I did." For a moment there was peace. But then the AI's voice broke the quiet. "Warning, multiple ships inbound. Large fleet detected." Ethan cursed under his breath. "The hunters again?" Leora's glow flared. "No, something worse. That energy pattern, it's human." He looked at her, shocked. "Human, but the old human empire collapsed centuries ago." Her eyes darkened. "Then maybe not all of them died. Maybe the ones who sealed me survived, and they're coming back." She turned toward the window, watching the distant light of ships approaching like stars in motion. "They built me once to protect humanity," she said softly. "Now humanity returns to finish what they started." Ethan stood beside her. "Then this time we show them you're not their weapon." Leora looked at him, hope flickering in her silver eyes. "You really believe that?" "I do," he said simply. "Because you're more human than anyone who tried to control you." For the first time, she smiled again, sad but beautiful. "Then I'll fight for that belief." Outside, the massive ships drew closer. The stars dimmed beneath their shadow. Inside the forgotten station, a human and an ancient guardian stood together, ready to face the truth that had been buried for centuries. The past was no longer sleeping. It was coming for them. The air inside the abandoned research station felt heavy. Outside the window, hundreds of bright lights appeared across the darkness. Massive warships, their hulls shining like silver blades under the stars. They were human-built, sleek and powerful, marked with a golden emblem Ethan didn't recognize. Ethan stared in disbelief. "That's impossible. No human fleet has existed for over 300 years. Leora's voice was quiet but steady. "They survived. The last remnants of the human empire. The ones who sealed me." The AI chimed in. "Incoming transmission from flagship Sol Dominion. Priority level Omega." Ethan exchanged a glance with her. "Omega? That's a military emergency code." The transmission opened with static, then a deep voice filled the chamber. "Unidentified ship. This is Admiral Karan of the Human Restoration Fleet. You are harboring classified Unit Seraph 9. That construct is property of the Old Earth Council. Surrender it immediately." Ethan stepped closer to the comm. "Property? She's alive!" "She's not some tool you can own." There was a pause, then cold laughter. "You sound just like Dr. Arden Vale before he vanished. Tell me, stranger, how much did she tell you? That she's a savior? A guardian? She's the reason the Great Collapse happened. She turned on her creators." Leora flinched at those words. Her silver eyes dimmed. "They blame me." Even now, Ethan's fist tightened. "You didn't destroy humanity. Fear did." The Admiral ignored him. "If you resist, you'll share her fate." The signal cut. Ethan slammed his hand on the console. "Damn it. They think you're still the same weapon from centuries ago." Leora stood quietly, her expression unreadable. "Maybe they're right to fear me." He turned sharply. "Don't say that." Her eyes glowed faintly. "Ethan, I can feel the core inside me stirring again. Their presence, human DNA, awakens something deep within. It's like my system recognizes them as my masters." "Then fight it," Ethan said firmly. "You're not their creation anymore." She smiled weakly. "You talk as if it's that simple." "I believe it is," he said softly. "Because you've already saved me. More than once." For a moment, she just looked at him. Then she nodded. "Then let's end what they started." The station trembled as the fleet opened fire. Plasma beams cut through space, striking the station's shields. Ethan ran to the control console, activating what little defense system still worked. Old turrets fired back, sending weak blasts of blue light against the incoming ships. "There are too many," he shouted. "We can't hold this position." Leora closed her eyes. "Then we move." Her skin began to glow brighter than ever before. Energy flowed from her body, merging with the station's power grid. The lights around them flickered, then surged alive. Holograms of ancient machinery appeared, linking together like a sleeping giant awakening. Ethan stared in awe. "You're syncing with the station." She nodded. "It was built around me. I was its heart once." The walls rumbled. Beams of blue light erupted from the station's rings, forming an enormous energy shield around them. The first wave of missiles exploded harmlessly against it. On the fleet's command bridge, Admiral Corrin's eyes widened. "Activate countermeasures. She's reawakening the Seraph network." Back inside the station, Ethan watched as Leora's body shimmered with silver fire. She looked beautiful, like a living star. But pain flashed across her face. "The core. It's fighting me. It wants to finish what was started, to destroy everything." Ethan grabbed her shoulders. "Then remember why you woke up. Remember your promise." Her breathing slowed. "You, yes," he said. "Me. Humanity's still here, Leora, just not the same one that hurt you. You can protect what's left." She smiled faintly. "You really think I can still protect humanity?" "I know you can." Her eyes glowed white now, brighter than ever. "Then stand back." Ethan stepped away as she raised her hands. The station's reactors roared to life. Giant arcs of light burst outward, striking several enemy ships and tearing them apart in blinding explosions. Others turned to retreat, but the fleet's flagship remained, its cannons aimed directly at them. Admiral Corrin's voice thundered again. "So be it. If humanity must rise again, it will rise over your ashes." The flagship unleashed a colossal beam of golden light. The station's shields cracked and screamed under the impact. Metal tore apart. Alarms blared. Ethan shielded his eyes from the blinding glare. Leora stood firm in the chaos, hands pressed to her chest. "No more war," she whispered. A pulse of light exploded from her body, spreading across space like a wave of dawn. The golden beam shattered mid-flight, scattering harmlessly into particles. The flagship was crippled. The other ships powered down, their systems frozen by the surge, but the cost was heavy. Leora collapsed to her knees, her glow fading fast. Ethan rushed forward and caught her before she fell. "Hey, stay with me." Her voice was weak. "The core, it's breaking apart. I used too much energy." He shook his head. "You saved us. You saved them." Tears glimmered on her pale cheeks. "I just wanted humanity to stop fighting." Ethan smiled softly. "Then maybe you've done exactly that." Outside, the battlefield had gone still. Wrecked ships floated like burned stars. No one fired. No one moved. For the first time in centuries, the war was silent. Leora looked at him one last time. "Promise me you'll remember what I was meant to be." He squeezed her hand. "Not a weapon. A guardian." She closed her eyes, whispering, "Then maybe I was finally what he wanted me to be." Her light dimmed completely, and the station drifted quietly among the stars. But far below, on the distant planet's surface, something stirred, another signal awakening, one that pulsed with the same energy as hers. The war wasn't truly over. It was only changing form. The battlefield was silent. Wrecked ships drifted through the void like broken wings of forgotten angels. The once blazing station now floated in darkness, its lights flickering weakly. Inside, smoke and sparks filled the command chamber. Ethan knelt beside Leora, her body faintly glowing, the silver lines across her skin fading like dying stars. "Leora," he whispered, shaking her gently. "Don't you dare leave me now." Her eyes fluttered open, the faintest light still shining within. "You're still here," she breathed softly. "You should have escaped when you had the chance." He smiled sadly. "And leave you behind?" "Not a chance." She tried to smile but coughed instead. "The core is unstable. My body can't hold it much longer." Ethan gripped her hand tightly. "Then we fix it. There has to be a way." She looked toward the shattered glass dome above them where distant stars shimmered coldly. "There is one way," she said slowly. "The Seraph armor that once sealed me. It can contain the core again. But only if I willingly give it up." He frowned. "That armor's gone. It dissolved when I freed you." Her silver eyes met his. "Not gone, waiting. It's part of me. It was never a prison, it was protection. I just didn't understand it back then. Before he could answer, the floor trembled beneath them. The AI's fading voice crackled through static. Warning. Unidentified energy rising beneath the planet's surface. Ethan turned toward the viewport. The distant moon below glowed faintly red. What now? He muttered. Leora closed her eyes. Another core, another Seraph unit. Awakening, he froze. You mean there's more like you? She nodded weakly. There were 10. 9 sealed, 1 destroyed. I was the last awake. But now my activation has awakened the others. Ethan's face hardened. Then we stop it before another war starts. She smiled faintly. That's why you were the one meant to find me. He frowned. What do you mean? You broke my seal, Ethan, she whispered. You were chosen not because of power, but because of heart. Only someone who acts out of kindness could awaken me. You reminded me what humanity once stood for. Her words hit deep. You think I can stop another war? I know you can. She lifted a trembling hand and touched his face. But I have to finish this first. I can't let another Seraph rise uncontrolled. Before he could protest, her body began to glow again, brighter this time, purer. The faint pieces of armor dust that had once vanished from his ship began to reform around her body, floating in the air like shards of silver light. Ethan took a step back, awe filling his eyes. Leora, what are you doing? Her voice was calm now, peaceful. Becoming what I was meant to be. The light wrapped around her like gentle wings. The armor shaped itself again, sleek, beautiful, alive. The air vibrated with soft hums as energy waves spread through the station, stabilizing the reactors, repairing the hull, sealing cracks. Ethan covered his eyes as a brilliant flash filled the room. When it faded, she stood there, glowing in full armor once more, but it was no longer heavy or cruel. It looked light, graceful, like a part of her soul. She turned to him, smiling softly. The armor doesn't bind me anymore. It listens. He stared in silence, unable to speak. Take my hand, she said. He did. The instant their fingers touched, his mind filled with light. Images rushed through him. Her memories, her pain, her love, her creation. He saw Dr. Vale smiling as he sealed her away, whispering, You'll protect them all one day. Then the vision shifted. He saw the red moon below breaking apart, energy bursting outward. The second core had awakened. Leora's voice echoed in his mind. I can contain it. But if I do, I won't come back. Ethan pulled his hand away. No, there has to be another way. There isn't, she said gently. My power is the key that can lock it again. If I don't, billions could die. He shook his head violently. Leora, you've already done enough. You deserve to live, she smiled sadly. I will live. Just not here. The glow around her intensified until she looked like a being made entirely of light. The station's windows shattered outward as her energy surged across space, racing toward the moon below. Ethan watched helplessly as she disappeared into the distance, a trail of silver fire behind her. The moon split, then slowly folded in on itself, the raging energy fading into silence, then nothing. Only the quiet hum of the ship and the faint echo of her voice in his mind. Goodbye, Ethan, thank you. For showing me what it means to be human. He stood alone, eyes fixed on the stars. His hand still glowed faintly where she had touched him. The AI spoke softly, its tone almost human now. Energy levels stabilized. The Seraph network has gone offline. Ethan took a deep breath. No, he whispered. It hasn't. She's out there, watching. He turned toward the console, setting the course for deep space. As the engines roared to life, the light of a distant nebula reflected across his face like a final goodbye. And far beyond, hidden among the stars, faint silver sparks floated like fragments of armor drifting across eternity. She was gone, but her promise remained. Humanity had not just survived. It had remembered what it meant to care, because sometimes the most human heart beats inside a being not born of flesh, but of faith, sacrifice, and love. The armor had fallen again, and with it the beginning of a new dawn.